Isabella was the only daughter of a great farmer who was facing serious financial difficulties. At 24 years old, she was a young woman with deep brown eyes, long dark hair like the night, fair skin, and a dreamy heart that always sought the peace of the countryside. She grew up surrounded by comfort, but never got used to empty luxury. She loved the smell of wet earth after the rain, the singing of birds at dawn, the wind swaying the leaves of the trees, and honest work close to nature. She dreamed of living a simple life, full of meaning, and not trapped by social obligations. Her father, a man aged by debts, saw in her the only salvation for the family. One night, with a trembling but firm voice, he called her into the main room of the big house. "Isabella, my daughter, you are going to marry Raphael. He is a widower, has 7 children, and almost no possessions, but he promised to help save our lands. If you accept to be the mother of these children." The words fell like a thunderbolt in Isabella's chest. She felt the air leave her lungs and hot tears run down her face. With a voice choked with pain, she begged, "Father, please, I don't even know him. How can I give myself to a stranger? I dreamed of a marriage for love, not out of obligation. My heart can't bear this." Her father lowered his head, ashamed, but the debts were many. The family was on the verge of losing everything. Isabella's mother, weakened, only cried in the corner of the room, without strength to intervene. For 2 days, the house was filled with a heavy silence. Isabella could barely eat. She spent the nights awake, looking out the window, thinking about the life she was about to lose. She felt a deep suffering, as if they were tearing away her freedom and her dreams. On the 3rd day, Raphael arrived at the farm. He wore simple clothes, a hat worn by time, and boots covered in dirt. He was tall, with broad shoulders, skin tanned by the relentless sun of the countryside, and calloused hands from someone who had worked since childhood. He was 32 years old and carried in his brown eyes a quiet sadness, but also a serene strength. When they met on the veranda, he respectfully removed his hat and spoke with a low and honest voice. "I know I am not the man a young woman like you deserves, Miss Isabella. I am simple. I live from the work of the land, and I have 7 children who depend on me. I lost my wife 4 years ago, and I carry that pain every day. If you accept to marry me, I promise total fidelity, respect, and to take care of you as you deserve. I have no material wealth, but I have my character and my effort." Isabella observed the 7 children who accompanied him. Lucas, the youngest, 5 years old, held his father's hand shyly. Sofia, 7 years old, looked at the ground. Clara, the oldest at 14, carried her middle brother in her arms. They were all clean, but their clothes were humble. Their little eyes conveyed a mixture of fear and hope. Isabella's heart tightened. Imagining those children growing up without a mother's affection caused her an almost physical pain. Even with her chest torn by suffering, she saw there a chance to do something good. With tears in her eyes and her voice failing, she replied, "I accept, for the sake of the children and my family." The wedding was scheduled for a week later. It was a simple, almost sad ceremony in the small countryside chapel. There was no big party, just some flowers from the garden and a few people. Isabella wore a modest white dress. While they exchanged rings, she felt the weight of a new and unknown life. Raphael held her hand with delicacy, as if he understood all her pain. On the first night in the new house, a simple wooden construction with few rooms, Isabella felt the world collapse. The children slept in their corners, exhausted. She sat on the edge of the bed and cried softly, covering her face with her hands. Raphael, noticing her suffering, prepared the sofa in the living room and said with respect, "Don't worry, I will sleep here. I will not demand anything new. De want to haibe. We will take it slow." That night marked the beginning of a journey full of pain, but also of possibilities. The first months were of great suffering for Isabella. She woke up before sunrise to help with the children, prepare breakfast, wash clothes, and take care of the small vegetable garden behind the house. Her hands, once soft and delicate, were now full of calluses and cracks. Many nights she lay down exhausted and silently wondered if she could bear that life. Her chest ached with longing for the big house, the quiet afternoons reading books, and conversations with her mother. Raphael was a man of few words, but his actions spoke louder than any promise. He got up before everyone, worked all day in the fields, and returned at dusk with his body tired, but always with a gentle look. He never complained about the tiredness. He took care of Isabella with a delicacy that surprised her. He brought wild flowers from the path, left a glass of fresh water by the bed, and always asked, in a low voice, how she was feeling. "You didn't have to go through this," he said one night, while they sat on the wooden veranda under the starry sky. "I know you came against your will. If one day you want to leave, I will understand and I will not hold you back." These words touched Isabella deeply. For the first time, she looked at Raphael with different eyes. She saw his silent courage in raising 7 children alone. She saw the fidelity in the respectful way he spoke of his late wife. Little by little, something began to change inside her. Love did not come like a storm, but like a seed planted slowly. In the children's laughter when she told stories before bed, in the family prayers, round the simple table, and in the nights when Raphael held her hand in silence, when he noticed she was sad. Little Sophia, 7 years old, was the one who suffered the most. She cried at night, calling for her mother. Isabella, with a tight heart, started sleeping beside her, softly singing lullabies until the girl fell asleep. Lucas, the youngest, started calling her mother Bella and ran to hug her legs when she came from the garden. These small moments brought a shy happiness to Isabella's heart, even amid the pain of adaptation. Clara, the oldest daughter of 14 years, was distant at first and watched everything with distrust. But one day, while Isabella was teaching her how to make bread, Clara confessed through tears, "I was afraid you would leave like the others my father tried to bring, but you stayed." Isabella hugged her tightly and, for the first time, felt she was building something real. A great storm destroyed part of the corn and bean harvest. The family faced difficult days of hunger and worry. Raphael sold 2 cows he had to buy food. Isabella, seeing the children hungry, often went without eating so they could have more. On one of those cold nights, Raphael found her crying in the kitchen. He pulled her into a timid hug and said, "You don't have to carry everything alone. We are a family now. We will overcome this together." It was in this moment of shared suffering that the union grew stronger. The children began to help more around the house. Together, they planted a new vegetable garden and took care of the few chickens that remained. Isabella discovered joy in the simple things. Lucas's smile when he received a cloth doll she made, Sophia's pride when showing the first drawing she made for her, and Raphael's look when he returned from work and saw the house organized. As the months passed, respect turned into affection, and affection slowly became love. Isabella realized she was happy there, in the middle of the countryside, beside that honest man and the 7 children she now called her own. Still, a secret hung in the air. Raphael never spoke much about his past or the lands he owned. 1 year after the wedding, a letter arrived unexpectedly. Isabella, who was sweeping the veranda, saw the thick envelope and grew curious. Without meaning to, she opened it, thinking it was something from her family. Upon reading it, her heart almost stopped. It was from a renowned lawyer. The letter detailed vast coffee properties, huge cattle ranches, and dozens of hectares of fertile land that belonged to Raphael by family inheritance. He was, in fact, one of the largest landowners in the region. Stunned, Isabella sat on the wooden bench with her hands trembling. Tears of confusion and anger ran down her face. When Raphael returned from work at dusk, she was waiting for him in the room, holding the letter. "Explain this," she said with a choked voice. "All this time you let me believe we were poor, that we were fighting for every piece of bread. Why?" Raphael lowered his head, removed his hat, and sat down slowly. His eyes showed pain and relief at the same time. With a low and emotional voice, he replied, "Forgive me, Isabella. I saw many families destroy themselves because of money. My first wife changed when she discovered my inheritance. Ambition consumed her. I lost her because of it. When I met you, I wanted you to love me for the simple man I am, for the father who struggles every day, not for what I possess. I truly love the countryside. I didn't want to raise our children in the luxury of the capital, surrounded by falsehood. I wanted them to learn the value of sweat and the land. Isabella felt an intense mixture of emotions. Anger at the lie, relief at understanding, and a deep admiration for his courage. It hurt to know that he had not fully trusted her in the beginning. She cried for long minutes, while Raphael remained silent, respecting her pain. I went hungry by your side, she whispered. I saw our children in need, and you had everything. I needed to be sure of your heart, he replied, holding her hands with delicacy. And you proved to be the strongest and most faithful woman I have ever known. After a long conversation full of tears and sincerity, Isabella made her decision with courage. She looked at Raphael and said, I choose to stay, not for the money, but for the man you are, for the devoted father, the faithful husband, and the companion who taught me the true value of things. Together, they reorganized the lands with wisdom. They used part of the inheritance to improve the lives of the families who worked in the countryside, built a simple school for the children of the region, and expanded coffee production in an honest way. The wooden house was renovated, but they kept the simple spirit they loved so much. The children grew up happy and healthy. Lucas now ran through the coffee fields, laughing loudly. Sofia called Isabella mother with pride every day. Clara, now older, helped with the administration and often said, Thank you for not giving up on us. The love between Isabella and Raphael blossomed fully. Every night, they sat on the veranda, holding hands, talking about the day, dreaming about the future, and thanking for the union they had built. In the midst of pain, his fidelity was unshakable, and mutual respect turned into a mature and deep love. Isabella understood that her greatest inheritance was not the fertile lands, but the noble heart of that man who chose simplicity even when he had everything. The family became a living example that the true treasure lies in giving, in the courage to start over, and in the love that overcomes all trials. True wealth is not in gold or lands, but in the ability to love with fidelity, to choose humility even when you have everything, and to build a united family through courage and daily surrender. We often judge people by their appearance or circumstances, without knowing that behind a simple life there may be a noble and generous heart. May this story inspire us to look beyond appearances, to value character above all, and to remember that the most beautiful love is born exactly where suffering transforms into union. If you were moved by this story, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like. Share it with those who need to hear a message of hope, love, and overcoming. Your subscription helps me create more stories like this. Thank you for listening, reading with an open heart.